Okay, it's 2:33 now. I don't want to keep people waiting. So hello everyone, glad you're able to join us today for the Thursday workshop session organized by the Outreach and Education Unit at the Chian Natural History Museum. So for the past month, we've been casually talking about work with people we work with or collaborate with after work. So that's why these are called talk shops. But for the working adults joining us, I guess since most of us are working from home, so I guess this is during work time. So today is the third and final session in this series. My name is Ja. I manage the education unit at the museum, and together I have my colleague Junwei, who is also from the education team, who will be hosting the session together with me. Yeah. So just like the previous sessions, we'll be talking to a guest for about 30 minutes, and then for the last 15 minutes, we're going to be answering questions. So you guys will realize that I've muted everyone and you will not be able to unmute yourself. So if there's any background noise wherever you are, like an aeroplane flying past or a dog barking, it won't get picked up. So for those of you who don't know about the Chian Natural History Museum, or maybe you've heard of about us before, but you've never visited us before, let me just give you a quick introduction. So the Chian Natural History Museum is located in the National University of Singapore, NUS campus. We have a wonderful gallery. The museum does research, education, and outreach with a focus on Southeast Asian biodiversity. So the education team, we conduct outreach and education programs, both indoors and outdoors, such as gallery tours, education workshops, talks, nature walks, camps, and many more. So before I start the session, I'm going to give you guys a couple of instructions on how to ask questions for today. So please use the chat box to direct your question to only these two people, as you can see from the screen. So it's OU Staff 1 and OU Staff 2. So you don't have to wait all the way till the end to send in your questions. You can send in your questions anytime during the session. So these, my colleagues, OU Staff 1 and 2, will be collating these questions and will answer them during the last 15 minutes. So please take note that we may not be able to answer all questions due to time constraints. Okay, so we're going to start the session proper. For the third and final session today, we have Mohammad Reza Cordova. I'm going to leave him to talk about his work, but I'd like to share how the education unit got in touch with him. So late last year, St. John's Island National Marine Lab, headed by Teresa, who was our speaker last week, organized the STEP Environment Camp, during which they hosted participants from many Asian countries, and this camp was sponsored by Temasek Foundation International. The Outreach and Education Unit from the museum, we were supporting partners, and Reza was actually an invited guest for the week-long camp. So he gave a very impactful talk about his work on marine pollution, and we thought, why not? Let's invite him to talk shop with us today. Okay. So Reza is also a researcher in the Research Center for Oceanography, Indonesian Institute of Sciences, which is also the organization that co-led the Sejades expedition to West Java. So for those of you who joined us in session 2 last week, right, you might remember the Sejades expedition. So we're glad to have with him, and since we can't travel now, so why not bring him from Indonesia all the way to us here? So let's listen to him, and I'll let Junwei start the session off.
Hey, hi Reza, how have you been? So glad to meet you today, although it's not face-to-face, like it's at least virtually. I understand you have been working from home, just like many people around the world. So what have you been up to?
Well, hello Chunwei, hello everyone. I'm doing great actually during this work from home. I hope everyone in here also doing well and a good health in this uncertain condition. Well, first of all, please accept my deepest thanks to be invited to this Thursday talk shop, right?
Yeah, talk shop.
Well, thank you, Jara, and everyone. Well, I've been working from home for almost like 3 months. Yeah, 3 months, I guess. My workload right now it has increased during the COVID condition. The thing expected to be much faster right now, but it's for me personally, it's to be, you know, like I'm attached to my laptop right now. I could not, wherever I sleep, there's my laptop just next, sleep also close to me. So, but yeah. However, the COVID condition lockdown right now forced me to slow down and spend more time with my family. For that thing, I'm really grateful.
Okay, well, you have been really busy. So since we're on the topic of work, do tell us more on what you do, your field of interest, and your research work.
Well, as Jar already mentioned before, I'm a researcher in Marine Pollution Research Group in Research Center for Oceanography in Indonesian Institute of Sciences, or in LIPI. Well, actually, I prefer to call myself a waste picker because I'm working in the marine litter. Because I'm taking every time during the, in the field, I just took every litter that I saw. So that's why everybody since call me the waste picker man. So my field interests are in marine pollution, ecotoxicology, and environmental stress, particularly to the marine plastic debris and also to the microplastic. So our work, at least in Indonesia right now, included to design a policy to handling the marine plastic debris in Indonesia. As we know, it's considered as the second biggest polluter of plastic to the ocean.
Okay, that's interesting. But I'm curious to know what made you choose to focus on the research journey on marine plastic debris in the first place?
Well, it's a kind of bit of funny because I remember it. I started the journey because I watched the movie. There's a two movie that inspired me so much. The first one is, I hope you remember the movie Finding Nemo, where the Nemo are lost, and then when Dory and Marlin that going to search, Dory and Marlin searched Nemo from Australia to the United States, and then I saw the scene about the waste dumped into the ocean. And then around 12 years ago, I saw, yes, Wall-E. In 2008, I watched the movie Wall-E that depicts an Earth as a square completely covered by trash. That trash is left behind by the former human inhabitant. On that movie, agreeably showcased our planet in Earth, that growing problem with the pollution and waste, and then felt, okay, I don't want this bad thing happen in the world. And then on 2015, there is a publication concerning the plastic waste into the ocean is coming, and I feel like, oh great, I'm not alone right now. And then the journey began to be the waste picker.
Okay, I guess we are all very familiar with marine plastic debris, so it's like a simple walk along the beach. We could already spot many different plastic trashes along the shoreline. So in fact, our researchers have their own fair share of running with plastic pollution too. So for example, Dr. J.C. Mendoza, he actually mentioned that he would encounter plastic everywhere during his fieldwork at sea, be it intertidal, subtidal, or even the deep sea environment. So he had been to litter-strewn beaches where you literally could not see the sand or rocks beneath the trash. So here's a photo example that he actually sent us. Yeah, so this is actually an actual beach that he has been to. Yeah, so it's also a common sight to see like plastic snack among the corals while snorkeling and diving, or even when trawling, there's actually patches of seafloor when there's so much trash that you can actually bring up to 10 to 50 kilograms of plastic trash in one single trawl. So as for our local beaches, Dr. Tang Hyok Hui actually mentioned that NEA had done a good job cleaning up the beach after every high tide. But actually there's also some stretches that NEA does not actually really frequent. So these shorelines and these beaches, there could be quite a few bit of human waste on these areas itself. Yeah, so these very visible trash are known as macro debris. So besides being ugly to the eye, Reza, what exactly are macro debris and what are some of the effects of macro debris?
Well, first, before we talk about the macro debris, maybe you have to define about the marine debris itself. The UNEP, the United Nations Environmental Program, define marine debris as a persistent, manufactured, processed, solid waste material discarded, disposed, or abandoned in the marine and coastal environment. In this case, that word persistent is only belong to the plastic. So based on that definition, the marine debris is similar to the marine plastic debris or to the anthropogenic marine debris. So at the present, the marine plastic debris has identified a global problem alongside the other key issue of our time right now, including the climate change, ocean acidification, sea level rise, and also the loss of biodiversity. The what's it called? The marine microdebris has the impact to the marine environment. The entanglement and also ingestion of the marine debris can be fatal because it has the direct impact. One study reported that 600, can you imagine, it's so much, right? 600 species affected by marine microdebris. So since we talk about the marine microplastic debris, how much is the plastic in the ocean? The plastic in the ocean number is staggering. It's really big, more than trillion pieces of plastic in the ocean. Over that mass, over 250 tons that float in the surface. According to the figure that published in the Journal of Science in 2015, between 4.8 until 12.7 million tons of plastic enter the ocean every year. It's really big number. It's really big. It's a really big problem. So the presence of the marine debris highlight the importance of the factor contribute toward the biodiversity loss. The underscoring the need of greater, understanding of the impacts such as the debris and the potential measure to facilitate the mitigation and also the management.
Okay, this sounds very concerning. So little do most of us know, our small island nation does has a huge number of trash on our shores too. So according to the 2018 International Coastal Cleanup Report, these are the top 10 trash collected from our shores in Singapore. Yeah, so the total amount of trash collected was about 13,730 kilograms. So it's equivalent to 35 dugongs. All right. So if you see on the list itself, you can see that the items on it is actually very familiar to us. We actually use some of them on a daily basis. So take for example the straws. If you lay the straws, it can stretch up to 2.3 kilometers. We can actually do our NAFA test and do a 2.4 km run with the straws itself. Yeah, right. So with such numbers in mind, right, Reza, what are some of the direct impacts of macro debris to biodiversity?
Well, the marine microplastic debris can have impact to the biodiversity in a number of ways, namely through the entanglement or ingestion, through the facilitation of the transport organism via rafting, on the debris that also can, can increase the alien species. I hope you're familiar with that alien species, because alien is not only from the space, but also in the area that don't have species like that. So the impact itself, the impact of the marine debris is depending on the type and the size of the marine debris item and the organism that encounter it. There's a report, there were so many reports that reveal that all 7 species of sea turtle, because we only have 7, and about half of the species of the marine mammals, and then 1/5 of all species in the seabird were affected by entanglement and ingestion of marine debris. For the species that are already at risk, for example, the species that are already in the IUCN Red List, particularly to the critical endangered species, such as the loggerhead sea turtle, monk seal, until the lobster, it's the problem. So the marine plastic debris itself has potential as the important contributor to the species level declining until the extinction. That's a big problem. I think you remember the female sperm whale, the jubilee, right? The jubilee, which has stranded in Singapore shoreline, that has also snacked on junk food or chunk the plastic that found in her guts. Even though the plastic found in her stomach is not large enough to kill her, it's a kind of really big proof that the marine mammal that eat the marine plastic debris, because they're mistaken it as a food. Can you imagine? It's a big problem. Once debris that, in this case, plastic in their mouth, they could not too picky about what is swallowed, hence the ingestion of the plastic. Because the plastic will be rupturing or blocking their guts. It's gonna be a big problem for the big mammal, such as the jubilees. It's bad. I'm really sad.
Yeah. Okay, so glad that you actually remember our sperm whale, even her name. So the 10.6 meters long adult female sperm whale was actually found floating off Jurong Island on 10th of July 2015. So this was the first time a sperm whale was found in Singapore waters, and it provided us with a very valuable opportunity to learn more about this magnificent creature. So it was Singapore's Golden Jubilee year then, and hence the museum staff actually named her Jubilee.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just interject here a bit, and we're glad to have one of our colleagues from the sperm whale core team, the dissection team, tuning in with us for this session. So he's just a cameo for us. So he's Chua, and he works as a museum officer at the Chian Natural History Museum. So I'm just gonna, is he unmuted? Yes, he's unmuted already. So he's just gonna share his experience with us in a couple of minutes. So Marcus, would you like to tell us what you found inside the whale?
Hi everyone. So the female sperm whale that was found on off Jurong Island on 10 July 2015. So that's about 5 years ago. Was an opportunity to study what happened to the whale before she died. She was a female. So what happened was that we had to have her towed from Jurong Island to Chua. So the MPA helped with that. And the museum team went out to, first we measured her, and then we had to dissect her and prepare her for eventual exhibition. So during the dissection, you can see from the photos, we opened up her gut. We started from the back part of her body and moved towards the front, as recommended by experts. And when we eventually got through the layers of blubber, we opened up her stomach. We found that what she ate, her last meal, was a lot of squid beaks. We found over 1,800 squid beaks. But we also found marine debris, mostly plastics, that what Reza was talking about. So they were not just small pieces. They included pieces as large as maybe half the size of your forearm, mostly food wrappers, single-use plastics like food packets, plastic cups. And so that was information about where she possibly have come from as well. So we got her DNA samples, some of this plastic cup labels of possible country, source or origins, and together we pieced together the puzzle, and the evidence pointed out that she came from somewhere to the west of Singapore before she died.
So you published a paper about this, right, in 2019 on the diet and the natural history of the sperm whale. So if the amount of plastic trash in the sperm whale's stomach was not the cause of its death, so what was the cause of the death? So one thing about plastic trash is that, like what Reza mentioned, if plastic trash was big enough or in a sizable volume, they can cause impaction and result in the death of a whale, for example. This has been seen for sperm whale in several places, several countries, but not for the sperm whale in Singapore. So what happened was that when we found her, we found that there was a large injury on the back of the sperm whale, and this was a large gash that possibly a result of a collision with a ship. So even several parts of her spine were broken. So if you visit the museum's gallery, you can see the fragments of the spine of the sperm whale, and you can imagine the force that's required to cut open the back of a whale and break the spine. That must have been extremely painful. Yeah, okay, so before I let you go, so since you were part of the core team that dissected the whale, right, so I guess we have to ask, how bad was the smell of the whole dissection process?
Well, we really weren't ready for it. So it was probably one of the most pungent stench I experienced in my life. And because we had to be knee deep in it sometimes when doing dissection, of course we were equipped with protective equipment. It smelled like extremely rotten meat and fish and chicken, because the smell changed from day to day, depending on what was rotting or which part of the whale was rotting. So it was a different, you thought you could get used to it, but every day you go, oh, it's a different smell. And I didn't want to get onto public transport after dissecting the whale, so we did all our laundry in the museum. So thankfully we had that. Otherwise, I think nobody would want to sit next to us.
Apparently our museum toilet stank, right, for a while, I heard.
Yes, because it stays with you, it stays with on our footwear as well. So no matter how much we scrubbed it, we couldn't get rid of it for several days or several weeks after.
Okay, thank you so much, Marcus. Thank you.
Thanks to the OEU team.
All right, thank you, Marcus, for the interesting story on Singapore's sperm whale. Okay, so Reza, do you have any personal anecdotes on the death of marine organisms, plastics, that you might have encountered during your studies or research work?
Well, I have a video that can show you the direct impact of plastic. Could you please show me that? This is the first video that the fish that's stuck in the plastic, particularly to the ghost fishing one. It's really hard to release it, actually, because it's just stuck in, all around the body. I don't know if it's male or female, but the fish is, just stuck. And then the fishers just left all the nets behind. It's really bad. Can you imagine if we get stuck by all around. If our body were, you know, kind of stuck by plastic, it will be get hard to breathe, hard to, you know, eat, or hard to everything. We have to use the knife to release it. You see, like, there's such a beautiful one, a fish in there, but after struggling and struggling, we try to cut one by one, and hey, it's released. And then there's a second video that shows the bird that ingests the plastic. The yeah, you see the bird in there looks really miserable because of something. When we saw it, it's like, hey, what's happened to the bird was having like the difficulties of breathing, and then the bird also looks so weak. And then there's a team who caught a bird, and then we try to dissect the chest. Well, this is the video that I'm so sorry I have to showing you this, but the this is the fat dissect the bird to remove the plastic from the bird gut and also from the, you know, the lungs. As you can see there is a long nuts and also the hook inside the bird. Seems the bird are mistaken the gnats as a food. You can see it's similar to the worm, right? And then can you imagine if we mistake a food? I mean, mistake the plastic as a food. Oh boy, I have a ghost bump right now. It's really bad. I just don't want that thing happen to me, right? To us also.
Oh, that's quite bad. What about the really tiny plastic pieces like the microplastic? They are so small and wouldn't suffocate or impale the organism. So how are they a problem too?
So the microplastic is different on a different level between the marine litter. So we can see first, this one is the definition for the size of the marine plastic litter. Until today, there is no following, you know, size really. It's not following the human-made definition, right? This one for the megaplastic, macroplastic, mesoplastic, and half of the microplastic we can see it by the naked eye. But for the microplastic, for the size that has less than 1 millimeter or 1 centimeter, we cannot see it. So I forgot the definition of the microplastic itself. Microplastic itself is the very small pieces of the plastic that pollute by the environment. By the definition, you can see from the picture, the microplastic has the size less than 5 millimeter or half of centimeter, that can be harmful to our ocean and the, you know, like the aquatic life. The microplastic come from the variety of source, including the very large microplastic that can degrade into the smaller and smaller pieces. From here, you can see that, let's say there's two sources of microplastic. The first one is the primary one, and then the second one is secondary one, yeah, of course. The first one, the primary source, is a manufactured plastic. For example, the microbeads that we found in our facial wash or something like that, and then a capsule, fiber, or pellets that just made, just like the size is less than 5 millimeter, half of centimeter. The secondary one is a result of the larger pieces of plastic that breaking down into the smaller pieces. This is occur because the plastic debris is exposed to the sunlight, and also the plastics begin of the weathering and, you know, kind of a fragmentation because of wave and the bacteria to degrade the plastic. The microplastic, the primary and secondary, they are pass unchanged the waterway into the ocean, and then the aquatic life and also the bird can mistaken the microplastic for food. The research is now being conducted, but there is still much that we don't know. The knowledge about the effect of the microplastic is limited because there is concern that this microplastic particle have an adverse physical and also, you know, kind of a toxicological effect on the organism. The plastic itself can bring the food chain toxin because they produce the toxin product when the plastic breakdown. They also aggregate the environmental pollutant, but are released when the plastic are digested by the animal. However, you know, we already knew the plastic are have the environmental risk unknown, but the real consequences is mostly unknown. Until now, we have to search, doing the research to find the answer.
What about humans? How do microplastic actually affect us?
That's an interesting one. The microplastic ingested by the fish or the crustacean that we eat it can subsequently consumed by human. We eat fish, and well, in Indonesia, we can see a lot of chicken that, eat the styrofoam. And then when we dissect the chicken, we can find the smaller pieces of styrofoam inside the chicken gut. It's really bad. So during the consumption processes, the human can get the microplastic also by we eat the fish or chicken or the crustacean or something like that. It's likely the ingestion of the microplastic could be further exposed to us chemical that found in some plastic that are known to be harmful. Maybe if there's a plastic bottle, you may see the like a free BPA or free BPS or phthalates that has the bigger problem than the microplastic itself. So there were many additional researchers have found the evidence of the microplastic that become chemically associated with the other pollutants, such as the heavy metal, organic pollutant, or another toxic pollutant while in the water or while in the air. That's a big problem. This chemical have maybe linked to the variety of health problem, including the reproductive harm and obesity maybe, and then issues on organ problem or even the developmental delay in the children. We only knew from here, come back again, the potential risk. We only knew that there's a microplastic that entering food web, but the real consequences are mostly unknown. It's still mystery. We have to search and search. But yeah, we have to stop to use the microplastic right now. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess what many people do not know is that we're actually ingesting a lot of these plastics also. So there's been new findings that actually shows that okay, so there are actually new findings actually combine data from over 50 studies that we found out that on average, people actually ingest about 5 grams of plastic every week. So that's about the weight of a credit card. Yeah, so this study also reveals that these tiny plastic particles are also found in air, food, and especially the water we drink. So plastic pollution is actually a very pervasive thing. I think in general, everyone is aware that we need to do something about this. So Reza, what is your take on solving this issue? Solving it is quite hard. So, or maybe how do we even try to improve the situation in the first place?
Well, first of all, we can solve this issue actually. It's like a couple years problem. We met these issues, but we have to solve this problem. So the first thing, the cultural change will be the necessary in dealing the marine plastic debris or marine debris through the mix of education, incentive, and the regulation. For example, the plastic bottle recycling, the recycling of plastic bottle is an excellent example. From the late 90s until today, it has increasing 2.2 trillion pounds each year. It's really big number. And the second one, as I already mentioned to you before, the educational instrument, such as the plastic identification code for the bottle, provide for the public with the essential knowledge and like the increasing the participation. The bottle deposit that has the economic incentive that can reduce the environmental losses by 75% around that. And then the problem may further be reduced by regulation such as the recent prohibition or the dispose the drink of bottle. And then but the problem is our lack information makes the education incentive regulation is difficult to target. It is currently impossible to link the plastic in the environment to the specific factories, store, fishers, or consumer. This means our cultural change is a tool that has to be broadly targeted, while the environmental losses are likely to be caused by irresponsible minority, as in many type of the pollution. And then for me personally, the human behavior, which is the status quo, needs the change. The accountability is the key component of this change. So we can help to keep the plastic out of the ocean. Just remember 3 things: The 3R, the reduce, reuse, and recycle. That three thing is the main important one.
Okay, so I guess that's also where educators come into play, right? So educators are actually key to promote awareness and highlight the extent of plastic pollutions to the general public. We have to convert technical scientific facts into simple layman terms so that it's easily digestible to our audiences, modified across different age groups also. So plastic pollutions and its effect has been a recurring topic during our indoor and outdoor programs, be it the gallery tours, workshops, or outdoor nature walks. So one of my favorite is actually the beach cleanups, where the participants can actually directly see the amount of marine debris that can be found on our shorelines. So this is actually a photo from our past beach cleanup. So besides just picking up the trash, we also collect the detailed data on the kind of marine debris, so they can see that what kind of marine debris can be found on our shorelines too. Yeah, but you're right. In Singapore, some of them actually refers to us as the tapao or takeaway nation since COVID-19. There has been a surge in demand for delivery services. So understandably, the delivery services actually help a lot in the safe distancing during this period of pandemic. Nonetheless, there has been a growing concern on how much plastic packaging we have been using when we opt for deliveries or simply tapao from our favorite local hawkers. So in fact, food container suppliers have been finding it challenging to keep up with the surge in demand to provide the plastic food containers for these different food area, centers itself. So however, we can still do our parts to reduce the plastic waste during this critical period by bringing our own lunchbox for our next takeaway, or simply refusing the disposable cutlery when you order delivery online. So these actions, however small, go a long way when we see F&B outlets will continue to be takeaway only when circuit breakers ends on 1st June.
Yeah, speaking about that, since we were talking about the current situation, right? So Reza, what do you think? Many of us have said that many of scientists, researchers have said that the virus situation has in fact put us a step backwards about 10 years in terms of plastic pollution. Just as when the world was starting to see us moving away from the use of single-use plastics, right? It seems that we're starting to use single-use plastics all over again, and at a much higher rate. So how do we move forward from this? What's your opinion about this?
Well, for me personally, because of the lockdown or the COVID pandemic right now, the social distancing becomes natural, right? As mentioned by Chua, there's an increase in waste, particularly to the single-use plastic from the e-commerce and also from the delivery service. For me personally, I just want to kind of close the tap of the source of the plastic waste. By right now, what we can do is 6 simple things. The first one is support seller that without the plastic wrapping, if we can do that, and then ask the seller to reduce the plastic wrap, and then buy goods in a large package or unite the various shopping lists on a single purchase, and then to reuse the plastic wrap after cleaning, of course, and then sort out the plastic waste for recycling, and then buying goods for the closer location that can help to reduce the greenhouse gases emission. I just remember that. I mentioned to reduce, reuse, recycle because from our research in Indonesia, the 3R during the COVID pandemic right now is decreasing. It's really bad because, more people are getting worried about if there's any plastic, viruses that attach to the plastic wrapper, right? It's gonna be a problem. But just remember, there is I and you in the solution. So we can do better for our environment. We should.
Yeah. So just last week you sent a video on Instagram about short your friend did. So we're just gonna end off the chat by watching this video. So we've shortened it. So everyone, just take a look.
Manusia mana sih yang nggak pakai plastik? Kayaknya nggak ada. Jadi yang harus kita lakukan duluan adalah kita menutup keran dari sampah plastik, sumber sampah plastik, dengan cara kita mengurangi konsumsi plastik itu, terutama konsumsi plastik yang sekali pakai.
Baik mana antara daur ulang dengan buang sampah sembarangan, ya tentu baik daur ulang, tetapi daur ulang butuh proses. Baik mana daur ulang dengan pakai ulang, ya lebih baik pakai ulang. daripada kita kemudian melakukan upaya proses daur ulang, yang lebih baik kita pakai ulang. Nah, dari mana lebih baik mana pakai ulang dan reduce atau pengurangan, ya lebih baik pengurangan juga. Itu sangat erat kaitannya dengan pola hidup dan keputusan konsumsi kita itu ya, bagaimana kita memilih barang, bagaimana kita memilih produk pada saat kita mau melakukan belanja, jangan sampai kita menghasilkan sampah gitu.
Tahun 2050 kita akan susah-susah kemana-mana, kita ngambil ikan dibuka isi perutnya isinya plastik, yang ujung-ujungnya itu karena kita. Makanya kita harus berbuat sesuatu supaya sampah plastik ini tidak kembali lagi ke manusia. Yang paling bagus ya, saya akan menjaga lingkungan karena lingkungan ini akan kita wariskan ke anak cucu kita, ke keturunan kita. Pilihannya ada di kita.
Okay, so I think it's exactly 3:31 now. So thank you so much, Reza, for joining us today all the way from Indonesia, tuning in and answering all the questions and sharing about your work as well. So before everyone zooms off, we would like to get you guys to fill up a feedback form. So you can do this two ways. You can either go straight to the link, which is put in the chat box, or if you have your phone, you can scan the QR code, which will lead you directly to the feedback page as well. And also, after you're done with that, please don't zoom off. Let's take a picture together. So for those of you who've switched off your video, please switch it on if you'd like to, and flash your nice smile, and I'll take a couple of screenshots. Yeah, so in the meantime, while you guys are doing the feedback forms, right? If you guys have any questions, inquiries about programs or anything, please drop us an email at nhmlearning@nus.edu.sg. So for all of you who have joined us for all three sessions, thank you very much. For those of you who have missed out on the first two sessions and even this one, right? All the recordings will be made available on our website at a later date, and updates about that will be placed on our social media pages. So you can keep a lookout for that as well.